Howdy! Today we'll be making a basic cross-cut sled for the table saw. The base will be made out of 1/2-inch plywood. I used maple. Each fence will be made of 2 laminated strips of 3/4-inch plywood. We'll need 4 strips total to make 2 fences, one for the front and one for the back. Liberally apply glue and clamp the strips together. I used a framing square to help keep my pieces nice and vertical. Using a router, I rounded the tops and sides with a 1/4-inch round over. This is done for comfort. And I cut a slight chamfer to the bottoms to act as a gutter for dust. The gutter is important because without it, your workpiece might have to sit against dust before it sits against the fence. The runners need to be made from dimensioned hardwood that snugly fits into the miter slot. The fit should be snug, yet able to slide freely. Cut runners so that when they lie in the miter slot, they lie just a hair under the tabletop surface. I was lucky that the width of my runners was the exact width of my miter slot. Position the base square on the table saw, with the runners even in their miter slots. Using a large square, draw center lines over the runners on the base. Use clamps to keep the base from shifting until it has been secured to both runners. Pre-drill and countersink 2 screws into one runner and then do the same to the other. Adding additional screws will keep the runners from warping. Passing some sandpaper lightly over the runners will help smooth them out. You can lubricate the runners with some finishing wax. Smooth runners are key to helping the sled move freely on the table saw. With the sled back on the table saw, I slowly cut the slot for the blade with a plunge cut. This is done by raising the blade slowly into the workpiece. Plunge cuts are not considered safe cuts. Alternatively, you can attach the far fence and cut into the sled as if you were making a through cut, but stop short of a through cut. It's now time to attach the main fence. Attach one end of the main fence with a single countersunk screw. Pivot the main fence until it is perpendicular with the cut line. Use a large square to dial this angle in. With the fences secure, countersink one screw into this other end to keep the fence from pivoting. The far end fence does not require the same level of calibration. However, a perpendicular fence looks the best. With the fences attached, it's time to pass the saw all the way through the sled and inspect for quality. The first thing I notice is the fence height keeps me from being able to hold my workpiece while operating the sled. My thought is lowering the fence will resolve the issue. I cannot lower the part of the fence where the saw passes through it, or I risk the structural integrity of the fence. I used a combination square and a jar lid to help draw the detail for this fence. It's good to think of both traditional and non-traditional methods of drawing. The table saw can be used to trim up the straight cuts with a non-through cut. A spindle sander and a belt sander would have been most useful in cleaning up the edges of the fence. I also trimmed the far fence down to lose some weight. The saw slit on the fence poses a perilous risk as it is easy to place a thumb over it while operating the sled. I'm demonstrating this with the saw off on the back end. Trimming down an offcut, I made a simple blade guard. This will make it harder to accidentally place my thumb over an area where the blade can protrude from the sled. It is attached with only glue, and it is only glued to the fence to allow the fence to be adjusted. It's about time to check how square our cuts will be on the sled. To do this, I will use the 5-cut method. This is done by making a cut on a square piece and then rotating it to where the cut side will go towards the fence until you have cut all 4 sides true to the line. Make a measurable cut for the 5th cut and check the width of the piece on each ends. If there's much difference, then your piece is not square. When it is square to satisfaction, add a few more screws to secure the fence to the base. My sled is now complete. It's time to test it out with a scrap piece of ply from the workshop. I think that this is a successful project and a wonderful project for any woodworker or beginning woodworker. What better way to start than to make some tools? A feature you should consider is putting a strip of plexiglass between the high points of the fence to function as a debris shield. Additionally, I shared a picture of this sled on Reddit, and the comments I got back were that people thought it should have been a little wider. So consider that when designing your own sled. And if you fancy, go ahead and click that subscribe button.